comments will like you. Love letters to the I absolutely loved Levi. Okay, like I said, I fangirled over this book. Hello BookTube, this is Anna from the Bookish Athena, and today I'm going to be covering all of the books that I have read since after Christmas and to the end of January. The first book that I read for the month of December, Love Letters to the Dead by Ava Delaria. The basic synopsis of this book is Laurel is the main character, and her best friend and sister May passes away before the book starts, and Laurel's kind of depressed and really sad about the passing of her sister, and so she decides to transfer to a different high school to kind of get away from all the people who knew her at her previous high school. And when she transfers into the new high school, she meets all of these friends: Tristan, Kristen, Hannah, Natalie, and Sky, her ultimate boyfriend in the book. And the first day of class for her English class, she has an assignment, and the assignment is to write a letter to any famous dead person. And so she chooses Kurt Cobain because that was her sister's favorite musician. And when she goes home to do the assignment, she starts writing, and she starts writing about her sister's death and how it's affected her and how it's affected her parents. And she realizes that she can't turn the assignment in, and so she doesn't when it comes time for the assignment to be due. Over the course of the book, she writes several love letters to the famous that have passed on, including Janis Joplin, Judy Garland, Amy Winehouse, Heath Ledger, all of these people. And in these letters comes out this story about May and her experiences with May and what she went through. And it's a really good book about overcoming hardship and learning that you can grow and you can move past what's happened to you. So I really enjoyed it, and I definitely would say if you like The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky, you will definitely like this book. The next book that I read in December was 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher, and I had heard a lot of good things about this book. I just never had the chance to pick it up. The basic premise is there's a main character, and his name is Clay Jensen, and he comes home from school one day and he finds cassette tapes on his doorstep in a package. And these cassette tapes are from Hannah Baker, a girl that has committed suicide at his high school that day. She committed suicide. So he opens up this package, he finds these 13 tapes, hence the name of the book, 13 Reasons Why. And the whole purpose is that the people that receive these tapes have to listen to the tapes and then pass them on to the next person. And if they don't, there's like serious repercussions. So what I really liked about this book as you go through it is that you find out not only did Clay probably love Hannah Baker, but that Hannah Baker really loved Clay, and she didn't know how to deal with all of the things that had happened to her. And you find out everything that led to her ultimate suicide by the end of the book. The one thing I really enjoyed about this book is that inside you have the narrator, and then you have Hannah overlapping the narrator every other sentence. And I don't know what the technical term for that is, but I really enjoyed the dual narratorship of the book. And oh, this book made me cry so much, and I loved it. The next book that I read is Boys Like You by Juliana Stone, and basically this book follows the post-traumatic experiences of two teens, Nathan Everett and Monroe Blackwell. And Monroe is heartbroken after something really tragic happens to her. Basically, Monroe takes the advice of her psychiatrist to get out of New York for the summer, and she goes and visits her gram in Louisiana. And while she's there, she meets a boy named Nathan. Nathan's in a band with his best friend Trevor, and they were in a car accident, and Trevor ends up in the hospital with a coma. And because Nathan was driving, well, it's his fault, and so he is court ordered to serve community service, and he does this through relatives for a construction company. And this is how he meets Monroe, because her gram is having some construction done. So both characters meet and they kind of bond. It's a really good story about getting over guilt and what it's like to forgive yourself for something. And I really like that. And I really enjoyed the cute little scenes between Monroe and Nathan. There was like one where they stayed up all night watching the stars. And so it's just a kind of a cute summer read. This book is there's actually gonna be a sequel, and it's gonna come out sometime in 2015. It might be May 5th, I'm not sure. According to one website, that's what I saw. So if you like this book, you can go get that book and read these over the summer. So the next book that I picked up over the Christmas break, literally like the day after Christmas, was To All the Boys I Have Loved Before by Jenny Han. And I've seen some really good reviews about this book, and when I first saw the cover for this book, it was so pretty. I really wanted it. So there's 3 song girls, 3 sisters, and that would be Laura Jean, Margaret, Kitty, and their dad, who is an OBGYN. Their mom has unfortunately passed away. There's Josh, which is Margaret's boyfriend, and then Peter, who is an old flame of Laura Jean. And so the basic premise of the book is that Laura Jean has a hat box, and in this hat box she puts letters to boys that she's loved. So whenever she becomes like obsessed with a guy and she knows she loves them but she knows she needs to get over them, she writes a love letter and she puts it in an envelope, stamps it, writes the address on there, and puts it in the hat box. And it's kind of like, you know, kind of her little stowaway place where she can say, okay, now that I've done that, I have to move on from this. Well, one day she goes into her room and she checks the hat box, and well, all of the letters are gone. And so she finds out when she goes to school that they've been sent out. And she finds this out because Peter, her first boyfriend, comes up to her and he's like, hey, is this really what you thought about me in this letter? And of course she's like, oh crap. So this kind of havoc ensues, I guess. So my favorite character in this book was Kitty Song, the youngest of the Song girls. She's 9, and I completely believed the way it was written that she was a 9-year-old. If you've spent time with kids at all, the way her personality is and the way she spoke and what she said was just hilarious, and I cracked up constantly. I really loved the underlying takeaway to this novel, and that was that, yeah, it's really important to have a lot of extracurriculars and be on top of things. Of course, Margaret, the whole book, is pushing her to do stuff because it's her junior year of high school and it's time for Laura Jean to step up and pad her, you know, her transcript for colleges and everything. But Laura Jean has a lot of experiences that Margaret missed out on because Margaret was so busy trying to get involved in everything. So there is going to be a sequel to this book, and it was the reason why I only rated it 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, because she literally almost dropped us off in the middle of a sentence in the book. At the end of the book, it was basically the middle of a sentence. And I was like, what? Anyway, there's going to be a sequel. It's coming out sometime in 2015, and it's going to be called, or supposedly going to be called, according to Goodreads, P.S. I Still Love You. So I'm definitely excited to read the sequel, and I loved this book. The next book I picked up, Fangirl. Okay, I loved this book. Okay, so this was my first book by Rainbow Rowell, and oh my gosh, I pretty much fangirled over this book. I hadn't read anything by her, and so I just didn't know what the deal was, you know. So the basic premise of this book is that Kath is the main character, and she writes fan fiction for Simon Snow, which is basically Harry Potter. There's 8 books. I just don't know what Rainbow Rowell's trying to parallel here. And she has a twin sister named Ren, and they start college together, and Ren says, you know what, I don't want to room with you when we start college, because everyone will know us as twins and we will have separate personalities, and Ren's kind of her own individual person, and Kath is more like the homebody, and I still want to have an identity with my sister. So anyway, there's that happens, and so Kath gets this roommate named Reagan that she of course doesn't know. Between having her upper level writing course that she got into and this guy named Levi who keeps hanging out in her dorm room that she may or may not like, and worrying over her sister and her father quite a lot. She has a lot going on, and I really loved this book. It was very heartwarming for sure. I liked the way that this novel talks about mental illness. I think that that is something that is brought up in a lot of YA frequently, and I really liked the way that the author made it symptoms but still made the character lovable, if that makes sense. Like, I loved their dad. I loved their dad. I loved how he was pushing Kath to go back to college and all of this kind of stuff. So I really liked that part of it. I feel like a lot of people have said that Kath is really relatable to them, and I think it's just because we all have gone through that phase where we're really awkward and we're just figuring out who we are, and we're in a brand new environment. If you've gone to college, like, you don't know people, and it's so awkward to put yourself out there and get to know strangers, and who doesn't identify with that? So I totally understand why everybody loves Kath and they completely identify with her. I also love the intertwining fan fiction Simon Snow thing that the author had going on throughout the course of the book. I really enjoyed that. It kind of made me nostalgic for when I may or may not have written fan fiction. So I definitely loved that part. It added a little extra thing to it. I just love how Rainbow Rowell has all of these little lines running parallel to each other of different stories that are going on throughout the novel, and it just covers so much, and it covers so much in a good way. So yes, I loved this book, and I hope you pick it up if you have not read a Rainbow Rowell book. It's really good, although a lot of people will suggest, and this was the next read that I picked up, a lot of people will suggest that you read Eleanor and Park first. This is the one that people like a lot. She actually had a book before this one called Attachments. So the premise of Eleanor and Park is basically Eleanor is this really awkward person who has big hair, like big red hair, and she wears such awkward outfits, and she's kind of like that awkward high school kid that we all probably felt like we were. And Park is half Korean, and he likes comic books, likes music, he does taekwondo, he likes to help his mom in her beauty shop. And the first time that Eleanor and Park meet is on the bus, and he basically gives his seat to her to get her away from being made fun of by people in the back of the bus, and the story kind of takes off from there. I love how Park's family kind of turns into a safe haven for Eleanor. As the book goes on, you kind of find out Eleanor's family situation isn't the best, and there is some abuse going on in the family, and I just love how his family is like a safe haven, and Park is kind of like this safe place that she can go to and feel protected. And I just love that. And that just runs the course through the book, even up till the very end. Rainbow Rowell did such a good job of character development with both of them, but especially with Eleanor. Like, I felt like I really knew her and I really wanted her to succeed throughout the rest of the book as stuff starts to happen. And I cried at the end of this book. It was just, oh my gosh. But I definitely loved this. And like I said, if you've read anything by Rainbow Rowell and you haven't read this, read it. If you haven't read Fangirl, read it. Read both. So yeah, those are pretty much all of the books that I have read currently. I am still trying to finish Beautiful Creatures. And I'm only like 200 pages away. And so I will probably cover this book in February, more than likely. But, so yes, I hope you guys really enjoyed this review of all the books that I have read since probably the day after Christmas. Let me know what you think about all the books, and if there's one in particular you want me to go into more depth with in the comments below. Okay, bye.